So perhaps you could just introduce your name and the company you represent.
Sure. Hey, Andres Ricaurte. I'm an SVP and Global Head of Payments at Mphasis.
Wonderful.
Mphasis is a global tech and ops specialist firm. We focus very deeply in financial services. So traditionally our focus has been helping large incumbent banks ingest, incubate, and scale innovation. So whether that is by embracing new technologies or taking in fintech propositions into their core offerings. And off the heels of all the experience that we've had with the banks, we've now, for the last few years, started working very closely with fintechs as well, helping them take a lot of their operational capabilities and turning those into digital scalable operations.
Okay, wonderful. Now obviously payments is a really hot topic at the moment. It's one of them topics which is spoken about a lot here at Fintech Connect in their own stage. What's your take on the sort of the payments industry at the moment within fintech?
I mean, I love the fact that the payment space is just going through such a dramatic transformation. I'd summarize it by saying the race is on, and the race is, when you think about us as consumers, how do I get into your phone? How do I become the relevant provider inside that phone? And that's requiring a complete re-architecture of everything payments. So whether it's API enablement and experience deployment, whether it's leveraging AI and gathering all the context around your life and everything that's happening in and outside your phone to develop the right product proposition, the right service at the right time, or whether it's even the core rails and the access to things like open banking and PSD2, the whole thing is changing, but the ultimate goal is how do I get into your phone? And if you look at it from a business standpoint, which in fact business payments represent, it's mind-boggling, but it is at least 5 or 6 times a bigger market size than consumer payments. Business payments, the race is on to get into the systems that you as a business use on a daily basis. So if you're a small business and you use Xero or you use Intuit QuickBooks or you use any of these software tools, how do the banking and payment solutions get embedded into that experience? Because I think there's a recognition that the device, the form factor that you're using on your daily life is where you're going to be consuming your payments and financial services in the future.
Yeah, I say it's really interesting. I guess you guys are positioned quite nicely to see a lot of this unfold, being the provider of the systems behind the payments, etc.
Yes, a lot of the work in the past few years has been around helping the established banks rethink their payment strategy, rethink their payment infrastructure. A lot of the work has been behind the scenes. So partnering with some of the largest global banks in building their faster payments networks or in redoing all of their different platforms to be able to become real time all the time, which is the new expectation, once again, if you're going to be inside that phone. But as the fintech neo community has started to significantly grow, we're seeing that there is a very nice blend and hybrid model where we're taking certain component parts from fintech and certain other component parts from core banking and reassembling those into an ecosystem that's much less discretely divided. It's no longer, in my mind, fintech or techfin. It's much more of an integration of the two. And what we'll see going on in the future, I believe, is a certain degree of specialization. So certain players will take transaction processing, other players will take the lending part of payments, other players will take fraud, KYC. You're going to start seeing the opening up of that ecosystem and a focus on hyper specialization, because the only way to drive the experience up and the cost down is by having players that are really good at what they do, as opposed to players that try to do a little bit of everything, and that's a little bit what we have right now with the established.
And you say that's very much at the sort of the customer facing end. We've got lots of different players with a very small USP differentiation between each other, which seems to be growing, or the USP seems to be shrinking, and the number of vendors involved in it seems to be growing. Is that the same behind the scenes as well in the technology space, or is that very much there's a few big players that are doing most of that?
It's a very interesting question. I think you've got a bit of a reverse iceberg when it comes to what clients see versus what happens behind the scenes. You have a significant amount of consolidation when it comes to payment networks. You've seen a lot of M&A and consolidation activity in terms of payment processors, because as you start going under the water, it's about large-scale, volume-based transaction flows and driving transaction costs significantly low. The experience layer is proliferating and it's becoming, multi-device, It's not just a phone, it's your Alexa, it's your car, it's whatever devices you're using on a daily basis. That is becoming an infinite number of possibilities, omni-channel, omni-everything. The consolidation at the bottom is significantly happening, and the place where we see a significant amount of value and opportunity for ourselves, and where we're advising both our fintech and our traditional banking clients, is how do you build the intelligence that connects these two? So if you take payment processing for granted, let's fast forward a few years and the rails have been normalized, the payment processing flows are established, and you recognize that you need to take those processing pipes and put them in an omni-channel world, there's a certain amount of intelligence layer that needs to sit in the middle that essentially allows you to take the right pipe at the right time with the right proposition deployed in the right channel. And that's the place where things are going. The experience and the form factor to a certain extent becomes commodity. The underlying rails to a certain extent become commodity. The value is on who will you as a consumer trust to tell you what's the right thing to do at a particular point in time when you're about to make a commerce or payments transaction. Same thing evolves into the business space. Who are you going to trust to tell you that you should be borrowing money versus not borrowing money at a particular time? And it's that intelligence layer that sits in the middle, that intelligent wallet, that custodian of a customer's not just identity but preferences and financial lives. That is where, in my mind, the money's going to be made.
It's an absolute pleasure to spend time with you. Thank you very much for talking with us.
Likewise, thank you for your time.